Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Jen, I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing all right. It's a beautiful day because we are talking about your new release of your book. So I am thrilled on that front alone.
Me too, and thank you so much for all your support to get it published.
Yeah, I'm just so happy and so I just love how your book has come out. And I just remember our first conversation when you were telling me about your book idea, which was, I don't know how long ago though, maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, which isn't that long ago in the grand scheme of how long it takes to get a book from starting to be written to published. But before we get into all of the fun details and the nuance, can you just kind of share a little bit about who you are and what your background is to kind of frame the context of your book?
sure. So I'm currently the founder and chief executive officer of Health Career Connection, which is a national nonprofit that supports undergraduate students to pursue health careers and become the next generation of diverse health leaders and professionals. I'm also a consultant who works with health organizations and foundations and governments on building the future health workforce. I'm a coach and mentor for people pursuing health careers, and I'm a former health executive. I worked for 20 years in health administration in hospitals and medical groups, and then for 18 years at UC Berkeley Public Health as a faculty member in health policy and management and an associate dean of public health practice.
So I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but right now with everything happening with COVID, is it a fair assessment that people are more actively looking into different health careers and possibly needing more of your resources?
Yes, I think even prior to COVID, health careers were in high demand. There's a great need for improving health, and a lot of the people in the current health workforce were aging and getting ready to retire. And so it was a great opportunity before COVID. COVID has made it such that right now it's a little bit challenging for people to navigate how to pursue health careers, both in terms of jobs and educationally. But I think COVID will create more opportunities and different opportunities for people, particularly in public health. I think it will cause some people to perhaps change the course of their health career direction. So my book is designed to provide a practical 9-step model that I've used with thousands of people over the last 30 plus years to discover the health career path that really best suits them in terms of what they want for their life, in terms of their passions and the kind of impact they want to make, and also to move from where they are to develop a practical action plan and network their way to where they want to go. And then once they're there, to enjoy what they're doing, make the most out of it, have the kind of impact they want to have, and then as the world or their preferences change, to be able to make adjustments on to continue on the path that they'll be happy with doing.
Yeah, and so your book title, so we have the title of "You Don't Have to Be a Doctor" in the description here, but the subtitle is "Discover, Achieve, and Enjoy Your Authentic Health Career." So I'm curious because I remember when I just said it a minute ago, our first conversation was probably maybe it was a little over a year and a half ago when you were in our PYP Academy and we were brainstorming and trying to figure out, what the direction of your book was going to be. And I just remember like immediately falling in love with your title because it's so just, and once you explained it further, like it's just so obvious that there are so many other paths in healthcare that are not just having to be a doctor. So do you have like a certain point in time where you realized that was kind of like almost like an aha moment of like, this is the title or this is the direction? Just because I feel like it so clearly kind of illustrates what you do.
Well, it comes from my years of working with so many people that feel that they either just want to be a doctor because that's what they've always wanted since they were very young, and they really want to heal and they're passionate about it. But then there's a lot of people who feel like they have to be a doctor because of their family expectations or cultural expectations or societal expectations, or because they don't know what other opportunities there are for them. So the title really came from the fact that we actually need more doctors and we want more doctors. So it's not in any way to discourage anyone from pursuing becoming a physician, but it's hard being a physician right now, and it will be going forward. And many physicians are dissatisfied with their lives and with their careers. So we want people who want to be a doctor to critically assess is this the right direction for me, given my life and given my my career goals and given what medicine is going to be like, and by the time they get to be a doctor, which will be very different than what it is now. And then if you're not cut out to be a doctor, you don't want to be a doctor, to know there are so many other paths that are possible, particularly public health, mental health, nursing, PA, digital health. There's so many other ways that you can go, health policy. And all of those are important to improving the health of our population. And all of them are great opportunities for you to have a good life and to have a really meaningful work and meaningful impact. So for me, it's about, first of all, making sure everyone is aware that it's much more than doctors and nurses alone. There's so many different options that are out there, and so many that are going to be in high demand going forward. And then that can make it more daunting. So then the purpose of my book is to help you say, okay, once I know I've been exposed to what's possible, which is really important to know, well, then how do I go about discovering which one is the right path to me, assessing who I really am and what I want and what I'm good at and enjoy. And then how do I develop a practical plan with the packaging, with the networking, and then how do I have the belief and courage that what I want is really possible, and to withstand setbacks that might come along the way, especially when other people are telling me what you should and shouldn't do. So it's just kind of based on it's kind of the culmination of all the things that I've learned and I've seen that have worked for thousands of people who have sort of followed this stuff in my book, and who they are living their authentic health careers. And I see the difference in their lives when they're doing that, and the difference in the impact they have.
Yeah. And I love how the book is structured with your framework, because I feel like you can pick up the book from the beginning of it and you can truly follow the step-by-step model that you have to like really get to that end conclusion. And then you have a way to like, okay, here's how you do something with this information. So it's not just oh, hey, you might want to consider this, or hey, you might want to consider that. Like, you really go into such deep detail on how to assess the different areas of your life to make sure that what you're pursuing is going to ultimately make you happy, which to me, like, obviously, like, that's just more sustainable in the long term for so many people, rather than just being like, here, go do this. And then that's not actually what someone wanted to do because they didn't factor in all of these details. So I feel like your framework is just so well thought through, which I think, anyone who, like, to me, my assumption is that people who are watching this right now are probably the parents of someone who could benefit from a book like this, where, maybe their child is just trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do and what am I really interested in? I feel like your book is just so perfect for all of that. And obviously I am biased, clearly, but it just feels so perfect in so many ways. So are you, what is your, like, if you could snap your fingers, wave a wand, and like, we're a year from now, like, what are you hoping that somebody is going to say to you as a result of having read your book?
Well, I mean, my intention for writing the book and my commitment now to really getting it to as many people as possible is that they would say, wow, this was really a practical guide that really helped me to have that aha moment about which path was best for me amongst all the different options that I had and then to know how to get there, and that I was able to make progress, that I discovered what I wanted to do or what I didn't want to do, which is also valuable. And then once I knew what I wanted to do, the book helped me, empower me to say, okay, here are the steps that I can take to become more competitive for health profession school of my choice, and to become more competitive to secure a job, to have more belief and confidence, that what I really want to do is possible, and to keep going, to be able to change course if I'm not in it might be somebody who's going down a health career path that it doesn't suit them well, or in a major in college where they're struggling, and maybe it's a way for them to say, here's another path that could really be fulfilling, where I can be successful and I can still really make a difference. So for me, it's helping people have that aha moment, make well-informed choices, and then see their success, by taking action. So part of the book is it's very action oriented, so that they took action steps aligned with who they are and what they really want, and that they're making progress, and that they believe that what they want is possible, and that they're on their way to being able to be there from whatever stage that they're in.
Yeah, that's just so awesome. I feel like every profession should have a book that's like this. And obviously, I haven't looked into what other professions are doing, but it just seems like every profession should have a book that has such a concrete structure to really guide people to a healthy and logical conclusion at the end, which is just so remarkable.
Yeah, and I think the book it culminates in an action plan, so that you take not only these things that you're learning, but you can put them all into one plan, that you can then follow, and that you can hold yourself. You can get the support that you need. First of all, it talks about how to find mentors and how to use your network, and it can help you be accountable to yourself. And if you're somebody who doesn't want structure, doesn't want sort of a detailed plan to follow, you just want to sort of go with the flow and see what presents itself, I think it will help you to put yourself in the flow of people and opportunities, which will be helpful to you, and then to recognize when you see what you want, and then to be able to be in a better position to take advantage of it when you know what you want.
Yeah. And so is the content then geared toward students who would be in high school? Is it students who are like freshmen in college? Where's the ideal point in someone's journey on this that it would make the most sense for them to take a look at?
So there are different points in one's journey where there are multiple points where people could benefit from this book and from taking action accordingly. The first is, I think, people who are in college, starting early in college, but throughout college, to be able to get a better sense of what the health career options are and how to pursue them, and how to assess what they really want, how to get internships and jobs and mentors that will be helpful to them. I think people who have graduated and are in the process of in what might be called gap years, or they're trying to get experience to decide what they want to do, or position themselves to decide what they want to do, I think very useful to that group, or whether they're in a post-baccalaureate program or just pursuing experience. People who are in graduate school can benefit from this book. I have taught in public health graduate schools for 20 years, and a lot of people come in and they don't know what they want, and they don't know how to pursue it, and they don't have a plan. And so it helps people who are in graduate school in multiple health professions, whether it's public health or nursing or medicine or mental health, social work. And then it helps people who are in the market, and maybe their path isn't as fulfilling in health as they want to be, or maybe it's time to make some shifts. I myself have shifted. Part of the book is stories about my own journey, where I've shifted 3 times now throughout my career, and to make it sure to align with my life and my career goals. It could be good for people who want to come into. It is good for people who want to come into the health industry. Maybe they're coming in from tech, or from engineering, or from some kind of service industry. It would be good for them. And I don't rule it out for people who are in high school. But they just have to kind of be motivated to really do the kind of activities that are laid out in the book. And definitely parents, as you mentioned earlier, parents of people who are in high school, who are in college, or any of these other categories, it could be helpful to them. And finally, people who are faculty members that are in institutions trying to advise students, or pre-health advisors, or people in career centers, all could benefit to be able to hand something to the student, to be able to say, hey, if you want to figure out a plan to get where you want to be in the health field, here's a roadmap to help you do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. And so I want to flip to just questions around your process. So how long did it take you to write your book? Because I know with yours, you were coming from existing frameworks that you had. So you knew what you had to write. It was just a matter of trying to figure out the configuration of what that might look like. But I'm kind of curious for those that are watching, it's kind of a mixed.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's quite a journey. It probably took me 7+ years overall, not of writing, but of from the idea that I wanted to write the book, to doing some initial writing, and then I would always get derailed by, I've got this big project I have to do now, or this new role that I've taken on, and I would always put it aside. And but I was always there. But I finally there kind of came a moment after a cherished friend of mine passed away. The next day, I was like, got this feeling like, it's time to really work on this and to move it forward. Life's too short, and so I got really more serious about it actually when I discovered the Publish Your Purpose Authors Academy program. And I decided, okay, here's a chance to have some structure and to move things forward. I would say that it probably took, by being in that program and with the support that was provided, it probably took a good 9 months plus, I guess, to do the writing of the book. And then it was like a marathon at the end when there were, you could see the end, but there were still things that had to be done. So it took another, particularly with COVID, made it more challenging. It took another couple months at the end to get the finished product done. So all in all, probably 9 months to a year of kind of concentrated writing. And a lot of that was just taking it an hour a day or an hour and a half a day or something like that. I always thought that I had to sit down and block out all these weeks and sit down and I was going to have it all flow out. And it was hard to do that, hard waiting for that to happen. So it helped a lot when I finally, part of Jenn's and others' advice was, okay, sit down and just block out some time every day to get things done. And that's when it really kind of gained some momentum.
Yeah. And I love that you're saying that, because so often, people ask me all the time, like, how do I get started? And so often it's a very simple, like, just block out, even if it's only a day a week, like just some little bit, and then gradually build that habit, because then eventually you'll be sitting in your shoes where, it's finally here. And I feel like with your book in particular, because we've had a number of new releases over the last, month or so, yours in particular, like we had to do some last minute adjusting to it as a result of everything happening with COVID. And not all books are impacted in such a significant way, but I feel like with yours, like it was really important to you to make sure that that you were able to kind of readjust some things accordingly, which I think.
Yeah, I mean, COVID changed the landscape for health careers and the experience of people in health careers. And so I felt and glad that PYP supported that it was important to make some of those changes at the end.
Yeah. And so in looking at the publishing process, just any part of this process, was there any point in the process that was like either super exciting or super defeating or like felt like a slog? I'm just either or both.
Yeah. Well, I would say super exciting when I kind of had the feeling like, okay, it's really going to get done. I'm really going to be able to do it. And I kind of crossed the threshold of, I hope I'm going to do it, to I am going to do it. And I felt like I had the support, the knowledge and the structure to be able to do that. And then super exciting were just points where when I was writing, it would just sort of really start flowing. Things would just sort of flow. And it felt like it was my authentic voice that was coming through. And it just felt so good to be able to have things come out in that way. And I think getting the title was pretty exciting too. And kind of like, okay, I can really run with that title. So I think those were some really key moments. I think getting the, sort of the edited version back was really exciting, as well. I think surprisingly, the slog part kind of came more towards the end when we had to do the adjustments because of COVID, and then kind of getting into some of the details, like, okay, the book cover and what was going to be how many testimonials on the back cover and what was going to be the design, and then the font, it was more of I'm a little bit more of a big picture and a relationship person. So for me, it was a little bit more difficult when we got down to really some of the critical, but really detailed, and editing to make sure that there were, the manuscript every time to make sure that it was, there weren't any inaccuracies. So I think that was the harder part, just for me, given my nature.
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm in the process of reviewing the audiobook for my own book that it has recently released, and it's like you get to that place where it's like it's so minutia detail, and you've read your stuff 1,000 times.
Right.
You don't want to read it again, even if you only read a little bit of it. You're just kind of like fatigued, and you just don't want to move on anymore. Which I think it happens with most people. It's just a matter of what willingness are people willing to admit to say, like, yeah, like you get to that fatigue place. And I think every author kind of gets there. And I don't remember a specific moment for you hitting a tipping point, but there's always this point in the process with people that the book becomes like this damn book or this other unsavory, colorful word to be entered here. But the damn seems to be the one that comes up the most, where you're like, it's just this like combination of like, you are just so ready for it to be done, but there are so many things that are still not yet done to be able to actually put it to bed. So I don't know if you actually had that moment where you're like, this, like it becomes like an albatross around your neck.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there was any particular moment, but I think it was kind of getting into the home stretch. That's why I said it was a little bit like a marathon. Like I could see the finish line, but it seemed like they kept getting further, and COVID was, was making it more difficult to be able to get there too. So I think it was just kind of the final stage in the process when all right, all the written part's done, and now, there's all these details too, but it's all worth it. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah. And what's exciting to me is that you already have such a huge amount of credentials around what you do in your experience and all the different facets of being in the healthcare space. And now, like, just being a published author now, like, it just adds so much more from a credential standpoint. And unfortunately, at this moment, the downside of COVID, well, many downsides of COVID, but one of them is that, I know that you had conferences planned and events planned and things like that. So now it's like, how are we all kind of pivoting as a result of kind of being confined to our home and just doing virtual events? So I feel like, your book is going to have a very, very long shelf life, which is amazing because not all books do. But I think it'll be interesting to kind of see, like, on the other side of COVID, how things kind of like blow up and explode as a result of what you're doing, just because you are opening the doors and kind of shedding the light on all of these different kind of options for people that, maybe they're percolating on it right now. So, I'm optimistic that you'll have a lot of speaking opportunities and opportunities for your books to be at events. But, so many authors now are in this kind of like weird space of like, okay, like how are we pivoting? How are we, being creative with what we're doing right now? So I'm curious if there's anything, do you have any specific kind of event type things planned or, anything like that you're thinking about?
Yeah, well, so far it's been speaking at some different conferences that are still being held. So the good news in my area, there are thousands and thousands of students that are interested in pursuing health careers and health career professionals and others. And so some of the organizations have conferences, like UC Davis has a large pre-health professions conference with 3,000 people that participate, and Stanford Medical School has conferences. So those are still being held virtually. So I've been able to secure opportunities to be a speaker at those events, and they even have virtual exhibiting that can take place, and so I'll be able to do that. There's some professional associations where I'll be a speaker on webinars that they'll be having, some of them more targeted at faculty and people that are advisors for health professionals and others. One organization is offering a book club that they have that's turned into a virtual book club. And so I think they're talking about being able to have my book be the subject of the book club, and then me doing some kind of a question and answer session with the people in the book club, and then also going through different summer programs that where students are in some kind of summer enrichment program around a health career, and being able to promote the books to the students in those programs, like the Health Career Connection program I run. All those students have copies of the book, and we're actually having workshops for them where they'll read the chapters ahead of time, and then I'll do facilitated discussion and Q&A with them. And so those are some examples. And then looking towards the fall, trying to have seeing if there can be different in spring, having faculty members be able to have this book along with their courses, perhaps for students. And that can still be virtual. And maybe since things are virtual, students will be able to, it'll be something they can read at home and utilize as part of the discussion rather than just having a lecture, at them. So those are some examples of things that I'm doing.
I love that, because it's all about pivoting kind of just based on where we're at, and all the things that you were saying are so applicable for so many other different types of people who might be releasing a book right now too. So you just gave some good tips for other people to consider. So this is good. Is there anything that you would like to share that I have not asked you or mentioned?
No, I would just say that, for someone who's considering whether they're going to finish their book or go forward with a book, I just say it was a, really overall, it was a long process from start to finish for me. Might not be for you, but definitely worth it. And definitely a lifetime accomplishment to be able to say, all right, I did what I wanted to do, and I'm a published author, and to hopefully see the impact that it's going to have on people. I know I was personally impacted by so many books, in my life, and wanted to be able to do the same for others. And then I'd also just say, Publish Your Purpose is a great organization to work with in terms of all the support that you need to get your book published, as well as going through the publishing process and getting it out there. And just really good people to work with. And I appreciate the support.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That is not a paid endorsement.
No.
Thank you so much for that. This has been so great. To me, the best part of the publishing process is when I can hold the physical book in my hands. I can see the joy when I'm looking at it for the first time. And then followed by that is having conversations now that it's over. It's like, okay, now the baby has been birthed. It now can go off and live its own life. And you can kind of, raise it well. So happy to have a chance to just kind of talk and celebrate. I feel like we should make these virtual and have like a champagne toast or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do need to have some kind of virtual book party of some kind, I think, instead of a book signing, some kind of virtual book party and have a toast. So hopefully we can do it then.
Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, good stuff. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. This has been fantastic.
Thank you for the opportunity. And thanks for all your support along the way.